From SCG Advertising and Public Relations, this is Getting the Word Out, a podcast series that provides answers and advice to the most asked questions involving advertising and public relations. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Getting the Word Out. I'm Tom Marguccio. I'm SCG's Creative Director, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Mike Cherenson. Mike is SCG's Exec VP, Head of Public Relations. Hey, Mikey, how are you, man?
Hey, what's going on, Tommy? How are you?
I'm good. Let's get right into this. You know, we spoke about doing this podcast about businesses doing podcasts. So what's the deal? Why should businesses do podcasts?
Well, I think obviously they're growing in prominence, and we're seeing the utilization go through the roof. And I think it's for several reasons. One, they're accessible. There's so many platforms now that allow people to access them and track and download, et cetera, from Spotify to Google to Apple and everything in between. The beauty of podcasting is it allows people to multitask. So, a lot of people do it while they're driving or traveling or cleaning the house, and it gives you an opportunity to catch up on news and information and stay close to topics that you hold near and dear while you're doing other things. And I think they're just hyper targeted. You can find a podcast for almost anything now. So whether you're interested in public relations and advertising, or you're interested in news and what's going on around the world, or even history or music, whatever the case may be. And so I think it's between the technology and the adaptation, I think it's opened people's mind up to the possibilities of podcasting.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how it's taken off, and it's become a great tool for businesses to attract new audiences, build brand loyalty, et cetera. So how often should a business do their podcast?
I think it gets back to your goals. So to your point, if it's building a customer base, or a lot of times it could be even internal, educating your employees or your suppliers or a very, hyper targeted audience. It could even be to support your customer service for those who maybe, if you have a customer service hefty needs in that area, a podcast could be an ideal tool to keep people updated and educated. So it really depends on your goals. I think, it's important first to have your goals and your objectives, then to put a regular schedule together and the content calendar that meets the needs of your audience. I mean, I think it's important to have a regularly scheduled podcast. So, certainly one and done may not be the recipe for success. So at the very least, I think monthly sounds like a good target, but certainly if you're looking to build a more robust audience, or you're dealing in a topic or issue that really requires ongoing communication, you may want to up that rate. But I think what's most important is you have a regularly scheduled time frame. You have a clearly defined editorial calendar, clearly defined goals and objectives. And not every podcast, a lot of people get into podcasting because they want to build this huge following and they want to, monetize and make money and do all this great stuff. And there's certainly, obviously, nothing wrong with that. But in many ways, a podcast could be a really just effective tool helping an organization just better engage with their current population, to become more sticky and help people stay connected to your organization, whether they're external audiences or internal audiences. So it really comes down to your goals and objectives. But the most important thing is to have a plan. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's always good to have a plan, now. So now they've decided to do this. How about producing the podcast? I mean, do they need to go out and get microphones in some kind of studio space, or make room in their office, or like they shoot a video with their iPhone? Can they download an audio recorder app and use that? What's the production side of this thing?
Well, I guess it comes back to your goals and objectives. So if you're looking to make, $1 million podcast and you want to have attract some really great, guests and to compete with some of the quote unquote big boys of podcasting, Yeah, certainly you may have to invest in some really top quality audio. There's a lot of opportunity just to use what's available on your computer or your cell phone, or even just very inexpensively purchase some simple podcasting subscriptions. There's online platforms that help produce a podcast, and there's also some hardware you could buy. So it really depends, again, on your goals and objectives, but the possibilities are endless. There, you can certainly utilize kind of at the ready technology, whether it's your phone or your computer. You can certainly purchase various services or some just basic equipment, or you can, again, go to the high end and utilize the top of the line. I think what's most important, again, is planning and programming. Have a really good story, have something compelling. I think the more interesting, the more compelling, I think the more tolerant people are of lower level equipment. Again, I think people should shoot for the highest level they can afford. But I think if you have a really compelling story and something really interesting, people are more tolerant. I mean, look at the news today. Every newscast, and partly because of what's gone on in the world, are doing interviews on Zoom and Skype and all the rest. And I think people are becoming much more tolerant of this kind of user-generated technology. And so I think people are much more accepting of the more diverse quality offerings. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. It's content that counts, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about. But how about those who do want to do their podcast a little more professionally? Maybe can you explain how our agency, for example, can help businesses produce their podcast?
Well, first and foremost, we help with the strategy and the plan. And put the plan together and the strategy and the editorial calendar and what the objectives are and how the podcasting will achieve not only your communication, marketing, or business objectives, but then put the plan in place to actually execute and using the technology that fits the goal. So we, some clients may require we go into a studio and we record a top of the line podcast, whereas others, we can use online platforms to record, and we can edit using the software we have in-house. So there's a wide range that we could do for them. And then not only once it's produced, I think it's activating it. How do we share it? How do we get involvement? So whether it's sharing on your social platforms, on all the podcasting platforms, to your internal audiences, external audiences, activating through, paid media, earned media, and that would all be part of the plan as well. So one, we can develop the plan, two, execute the plan and actually produce the podcasts. But then we can market it, share it, activate it, facilitate engagement, and do all those things to give it life. So, and I think that's the benefit of working with an agency like ours. There's a lot of great studios that can record, but what makes us unique, I think, is the fact that we, one, understand podcasting, two, the technology, but three, and even more importantly, can help give it life and can help and share it, activate it, drive engagement, get people interested, and not just use the typical the podcasting platforms, but use all of your social media platforms, use earned media, paid media, all the rest, just to give that life. And I think that's what we bring to the table and why we're unique.
Aside from us helping out, as we said before, I mean, the beauty of podcasting is that it's not limited to big businesses with big budgets. I mean, everyone from the local restaurant to the small business-to-business company to the dry cleaner can do a podcast, no?
Well, no, absolutely. We'll just use a restaurant as an example.
Right.
If you have a restaurant with a really loyal following or you want to develop a loyal following, why not do a food podcast? Why not have your chef? By the way, it's important to have really good characters and storytellers and people that are, just good on audio. But if you have just that compelling character, that great chef, or somebody who owns the restaurant who loves food, who's passionate, can tell stories, can educate, inform, engage, and do all those great things, why not do a regular podcast about what's behind the menu, talking about what prompted certain decisions, how you make certain things. I'd love to know what chefs do when they're not in the kitchen. What do they eat? I think that would be a great podcast.
I'd like to know what my chef eats.
Got together and shared their stories about what they eat when they're not cooking. To me, that would be very compelling. Or a group of chefs, or even people at one restaurant. Where do they go? Where do they go out to eat? I mean, I think there's so just kind of playing off this. It's good for anyone. I think if you have a compelling story, something interesting, I think every business, large or small, can benefit from podcasting.
They sure can, and the thing, listen, I just realized this. We've been talking about podcasting. It's audio podcasting. How about videos or video podcasting? What's that niche? How's that work?
First and foremost, as a full service communication agency, we're agnostic to media form. And frankly, our goal is to match the best media form with your goals and objectives. And I think every organization should put both podcasting and video on the table as something to consider. I think the video is an extremely powerful tool, and it should be considered by every organization as part of the communication and marketing mix. I think, data tells us that video is consumed at a much greater level on social media. Obviously, we know the growth of YouTube and TikTok and all the rest of the platforms. So I think video needs to be part of the discussion, and at some point must be part of the marketing and communication mix. So our podcasting endeavors certainly don't. It's not zero sum. It's not one or the other. It's how do you potentially incorporate both. So, and how do you marry them together, and how do you make them complement each other and not compete? And again, that's what makes us unique, is that when we put that plan together, we're not a podcasting company that's just looking to sell you a podcast, and we're not a video company looking just to sell you a video. We're a communication and marketing agency and a recruitment agency helping you connect with the people that matter to you. And we will put together the best plan using a huge toolbox at our disposal to make those important connections. So in many instances, it may be the podcast. In some, it may be the video. And in others, it may be both. And so that's how we go in with a blank canvas and looking at the best tools possible to achieve your objectives.
This has been really great, and I've learned stuff myself. So, and I really think we've covered a lot about podcasting for businesses, podcasting in general. So if anyone wants more information, what can they do?
I think the best is just go to the podcasting section of our website, scgadv.com, and learn more about our podcasting. I think people just need to have an open mind and consider podcasting not only as some big budget or some program just to get millions of followers, but how can a podcast help you achieve your marketing, recruitment, even your customer service needs? How can a podcast help you reach your overall business objectives? And we can help you put together that plan. We can help you develop and produce the podcast, and we can help activate it, as necessary.
Well, again, that's great, and thanks a million for spending a few minutes with us here and doing this. So I thank you, my friend. I know you and I will talk soon, and everybody out there listening, thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll see you again next time on Getting the Word Out.
Getting the Word Out is a production of SCG Advertising and Public Relations. For more information on this podcast or any of the services we offer, please visit scgadv.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.